Today we're going to be looking at some of the top cores that have performed incredibly well over the last 2 weeks of Regulation D. Now, the first core I want to take a look at here is one of my personal favorites. I absolutely love the one that this is centered around, and I think it's incredibly good, and that is Dragapult. Now, I do believe Dragapult has, I believe it got top 8 at the Victory Road Tour, and it got top 2, I believe it was the runner-up in the Nino Poké Rose Tour, and that is paired up with Chien-Pao. Now, this is basically the 2-mon core that everyone has kind of been running with this, right? And really, you can go kind of a lot of different ways with it, but I also think for this core, it's very important that you have something that basically stops priority moves, because I do think the biggest weakness this team has is Dragapult's, weakness to Sucker Punch. So personally, I love Farigiraf kind of as that third mon on this team, but there are a lot of people who are running, a lot of, I guess a lot of different things, right? So Farigiraf, I believe, had the 2 best results at both tours. Fluttermane's also incredibly good with this core, so is Heatran. But then from there, it's, a lot of people are running at that fake out mon, whether that be like Rillaboom or Iron Hands, 2 mons that are both really good with Chien-Pao. I do think redirection's always good on this kind of core as well. You could always replace the Farigiraf with Indeedee. Obviously that is, one of the priority blockers right now with Psychic Terrain. Amoonguss is also fantastic as well. But this is kind of the 3 core I really want to touch on here. And basically, the way everyone's running this is Choice Banded Dragapult with Terra Ghost. Now, Terra Ghost is really, really interesting next to Chien-Pao because you have moves like, Dragon Darts, which is obviously fantastic. Obviously, has nothing to do with the Terra Ghost. But mainly, it's the Phantom Force, which hits like incredibly hard, and then the Terra Blast. So, fun fact, I did do a video on this yesterday. I did a live with this, with the team not the team I built, the team I stole, but I put my own spreads on it. But Dragapult does a lot of damage with Terra Blast. How much you want to know? Next to Chien-Pao, Terra Blast Ghost will actually one-shot a Chien-Pao, which is not a Chien-Pao, sorry, an Urshifu, which is absolutely insane. Urshifu has base 100 defenses and HP, right? If you have a look at Urshifu here, like, you look at this mon here, dude, it's actually very, very bulky, right? It has 100 HP, 100 defense. Very, very bulky on the physical side. Obviously, they're not really investing much. Like, that's basically all the bulk Urshis are running at the minute. But yeah, you just one-shot this, which is kind of crazy. And then for the last move, U-turn is just fantastic, right? Because normally, as long as, especially in open sheet, right? As long as you know your opponent's not Scarfed or like a booster energy, Flutter or, what's it called? Of course. Why am I blanking on this? Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle, yeah. As long as you don't see one of those, you're almost always going to go first. A lot of people right now are just like, I'm not timid. What are we with Jolly? Yeah. Oh, that's mild. That's lax, not mild. We're Jolly. Yeah. Basically, the reason you go Jolly is because, like, with this here, you just outspeed, basically everything that you can. The only things that outspeed you are Alecki and Electrode, which you don't really care that much about. Chien-Pao's, they're pretty similar. I mean, look, we all know how Chien-Pao's run at this point. The Terra's up to you. I personally love Dark. Terra Ghost is obviously really consistent. In terms of the move, you always want Sucker Punch, and I was going to say you always want Ice Spinner, but a lot of people right now are also choosing to go Icicle Crash. I think Crash is also really good. It allows you basically to pick up some KOs that you didn't before. And the last move comes down to your Terra. If you go Ghost, I'd say go Sacred Sword, especially if you think your team struggles into like Dondozo and like Hisui and Gudra. If not, I love Crunch. Terra Dark Crunch is absolutely insane, especially, into Pokemon like Fluttermane, where it just allows you to pick up that one shot that you couldn't before. In terms of the spreads, it's basically always this. I go Adamant. But fun fact, don't listen to this, boys. Put your last point of, your one last stat into the defensive stat. The reason for that is because this allows you to always live Adamant Surging Strikes from a Scarfed Urshifu. If they go Terra Water, you can't live it. But I've had a couple situations where I've, gone up against a Scarf Shifu, I've lived on 1 HP, and I've died to it. It really comes down to a roll. That is why I always recommend just put that last point into your defensive stat, because at max, I think it does like 98.7. So that's really, really clutch. And then Farigiraf, everyone loves Farigiraf. Well, not everyone loves Farigiraf. Everyone loves Rocky Helmet. Rocky Helmet's great. Armor Tail is basically what makes this one really, really good. In terms of Terra, it's up to you what you want to go with. I think Terra Water's the best. This just allows you to hard wall out the Shifus. In terms of moves, look, Psychic and Hyper Voice are like really good on this mon. This one actually puts out like quite a bit of damage, and I think you only need like, I think it's like 68 points to like guarantee a one-shot a non-bulky Urshi, which is really cool. In terms of the last slot, this really comes down to what you want. I like Trick Room and Prison. This is what everyone's been running. You can also run things like Helping Hand. Like Helping Hand's really, really good next to your Dragapult, because you can go for like Helping Hand Dragon Darts and stuff like that. But yeah, this one just does a lot of things. You can always go Calm Mind if you're crazy. It does have, I think it has like, does it get torn? I don't think it gets torn. It gets Ally Switch, which is another one. Like Helping Hand Ally Switch is really cool. Similar to how some people are running Crest at the minute. It gets Skill Swap as well, which is like kind of interesting. T-Wave, Sub. There's a few things this mon can do. I do think that Trick Room in Prison just it's really good, right? Like there's Ursaluna running around, and just the ability to stop that thing from doing anything is like, it's always really damn good. Now, the next core I'm going to take a look at here is a core that is definitely on the rise. This is just a really, really strong core, and that is the Gold Dark Shifu plus redirection from the Shroom. Now, the reason this is so damn good is because, one, I think Gold is like such a meta core right now. Like we saw it at Nino's, right? I think like Gold had like 9 of the top 16 placements at Nino's, which is like absolutely freaking absurd right now. Like that's a lot. I do believe everyone's like kind of playing the lefties set. So they're like playing lefties. There are some specs Terra Steel's going around, but like lefties water is just super consistent right now. Obviously really good into the Chien-Pao, really good into the Urshifus. Water's just like such a fantastic typing. Make It Rain, still one of like the best. Sorry, not one of the best. Make It Rain is probably the best signature move, at least in the game right now. Obviously there's moves like Astral Barrage and, you know, whatnot that are also pretty damn good. But Make It Rain right now is absolutely broken. You go for things like Protect, and you also slap that nasty plot on there. There are, like, if you're going specs, something like Trick is really good, because Trick is, like, super good into Amoonguss, because you can't get status from the Amoonguss, which means it can't put you to sleep. And then you just trick a specs onto it, and it's not useless, it's just, you really limit it to what it's doing, you know? I've had games myself where someone just tricked me a specs, and I just spammed Spore for the entire game, and it was huge. But obviously there are other times where if you can like lock them into a Rage Powder and then just like ignore them with water types, it's fantastic. But yeah, this is the pretty standard Gholdengo set right now. In terms of spreads, it's really up to you. I personally run something like this. You probably, like, I would suggest looking into your spreads more. Like, I like a little bit of physical defense. That's why I run something like this. I don't think this is super optimal. You might almost want to drop some HP and, like, invest more into the, like, defensive stats. You could honestly even drop this down to the previous bump. I don't know off the top of my head what it is. It's somewhere here. Yeah, there, 52. You could do something like that. I don't know how optimal it is. I haven't really played around with it. But yeah, Gholdengo's, like, really, really good. And the reason it pairs so well with Urshi is because, like, Urshi right now is either going, like, Banded or Black Glasses. Most of them are running Terra Dark. If you want something defensive, there's always like Poison or Fire. And the reason is because Wicked Blow is just so damn good. And right now, with everyone like worried about the Rapid Strike version, you know, a lot of people are teching Terra Water, Terra Grass. No one's really teching Terra Fairy, which means Dark Shifu can just like run straight through teams. So obviously, you know, you've got moves like this, the Sucker Punch to close combat, and on the Banded set, you probably go for something like U-Turn or Protect. But the other thing that is kind of picking up a lot right now is people going Black Glasses. And then you drop this for Protect, obviously. You want Protect or Detect, it's up to you. I think a lot of people go Detect. And then they're dropping this for SD. Now, I'm personally not like a hard believer in Sword Stance. I think close combat is just like too valuable to not have. But if you're playing on a team where you have a lot of redirection, especially like, you know, things like Intimidate, pivoting, potentially screens, like there are a couple people who've been running Gold with screens, like Gold Shifu plus screens. It didn't really get any results over the last weekend. I think it got a couple at Victory Road. I don't remember off the top of my head. But these are two mods that do, you know, work really well behind screens. If you're able to get up to SD and then have something like an Amoonguss sit next to this, it doesn't matter if they resist Wicked Blow, as long as it's not like a Shell Armor, you know, Terra Fairy Gudra. You're just going to start KOing resist, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you resist this. Black Glasses, Terra Dark, Wicked Blow with +2. Like, it just sweeps through. And then finally, Shroom, like, man, not much to say. You know, we talked about it before. Rocky Helmet's just, like, a fantastic move, right? This thing gets Rage Powder. It gets Pollen Puff. It gets Spore. Like, it's so damn good. Also, Dozo's, like, kind of picking up a little bit right now. It did drop off last weekend, but part of me wants to believe that's because people are just, like, you know, trying to save Dozo for Worlds and be like, I'm not a Dozo player, and then they're just going to pull out Dozo at Worlds because people aren't prepped for it. In terms of EVs, though, I mean, like, it's pretty simple, right? Like, you just go something like this, go to the bump. I personally do like running mine really physically defensive, but I think this here, especially for ladders, like, really, really consistent, right? It's just a really bulky set, and it just does a lot. And look, in terms of the ones you want to pair with this, there is a lot of good options. Like, Lando Tizamon on the rise right now. I think it's definitely the best Intimidate user in the game. Another really good Intimidate user on a team like this, though, is the Hisuian Arcanine. These two, they both kind of feel like a very similar role. It just comes down to, like, how I guess you build the rest of the team. So I think Intimidate is sick. I kind of touched on it before, but Grimmsnarl, like, I've seen Grimmsnarl again with both Lando and the Arcanine. Like, one really cool thing you can do with a team like this, like if you're running like a core like this, is you've got like, you know, obviously Regenerator plus Rocky Helmet. You can go like Scarf on this. Oh, Scarf. Go like Scarf U-turn. And then you can just go like Parting Shot plus screens on this, right? And this just gives you this like really cool defensive core where you're able to pivot around these three, make your team incredibly bulky with like screens, redirection, Intimidate, And then it just allows like these two mons basically just like sit there and do their thing. Another really cool mon I've personally been loving, especially with like the Lando variants, is Thundy. I'll probably have a video out in the next couple days. I've been working on a team with Thundy as well. Like Thundy is like in a really cool spot where it's like, again, it's another pretty decent Rocky Helmet user. If you've got something like Shroom as well, you can always run it with like Citrus Berry and make it really tanky, but it has things like T-Wave and Eerie Impulse. Like Eerie Impulse paired up with an Intimidate user is also like really, really sick. Like I think these like, not like defensive, but these more like balanced setup cores where you have just like these mons that are like all good, right? Like, you know, just because this thing's a support doesn't mean it can't deal damage, right? Like Thundy hits really damn hard. You have like a stab like Thunderbolt. You've also got moves like Wild Bolt Storm, which is just like really good into like the Torn teams, right? Like we definitely saw a big drop off in Torn over the last weekend, and I think that's because we had so many Thundies like placed in the top 16. So yeah, really, really cool core. Now, the next one is a core that picked up a lot at the Victory Road Tour, but we didn't really see much out of in the Nino Pokebros Tour. And again, to me, this is kind of similar to what I was touching on before with Dondozo, where I feel like this core is really good and people might want to try like keep it a bit under wraps going into Worlds, where, look, I think everyone's kind of starting to learn Ursaluna is really damn good, right? I think coming into the meta, everyone's like, Luna's going to be good, but then everyone's playing Hard Trick Room, and like Hard Trick Room's just not good. But like a balanced Trick Room is really good, or like a Trick Room mode and a HO team is also really good. So how do you play this mon? Flame Orb is like Flame Orb is the obvious one. Like Guts plus Flame Orb, this mon's absolutely absurd. In terms of Terra, I've seen people run Terra Normal. I have seen like some weird Terras, like people are going like Terra Normal, Terra Grass. There are a couple Terra Flyings. I personally do think Terra Ghost is the best. Ghost basically gives you a really, really good matchup into the mirror. And it also just allows you just to, you know, deal with a lot of things. Not to mention when you pair it up with Cresselia as well, Terra Ghost is like a really good defensive typing. Especially when you have things like, you know, Lunar Blessing and the ally switch on your side. But in terms of moves, Facade is without a doubt the best move on this mon. Obviously boosted by Guts, boosted by the Burn, and then you've also got the Guts boosted, so it's 140 base power, Stab boosted, Guts boosted. It's absolutely insane. In terms of the moves, obviously Headlong Rush is like the move I think a lot of people would like instantly gravitate towards. But I do think as the meta develops, a lot of people are actually starting to go Earthquake, which is kind of insane to me because obviously the Rillaboom's like so prevalent right now. Like Rillaboom's one of the top 10 mons in the format, and you know its ability basically cuts the power of Earthquake in half. But in situations where your opponent doesn't have a Rillaboom, or you're able to play around it and you have things like Crest next to you, like Earthquake goes like absolutely sicko mode. In terms of the third move, Protect is like absolutely necessary on this mod. There are times where you need to get that Flame Orb off. And then finally, Crunch is something that's picking up a lot, but I actually think either Swords Dance or Bulk Up. Now, I actually played against Bulk Up recently. This messed me up, man. I played against it in a best of 3 tournament. And dude, if you, like, I've seen, like, they led Lunacrest into me, and they just straight up bulked up in front of me. I doubled it, they bulked up, and then they used Lunar Blessing and swept through with the Luna. It's pretty insane. I think Bulk Up's crazy. In terms of the spreads, I mean, again, this comes down to how you want to do it. I have seen people opting to go, like, something like this. And then just, like, max Spadef, like, some points here. And then you just go like that. Like, honestly, actually, you're probably just doing this, right? Let's be honest. But I've seen people go for stuff like this. I've also seen, like, options where, because people are pairing this on, like, Tornadus teams or, like, hyper offensive teams, they're actually going, like, Adamant. And then they're putting, like, what is it? They put, like, 3 points into this. So, like, you go, like, Bulk Up, and then you put, like, this so that you hit that 150 mark. And then you just, like, kind of, like, dump the rest in bulk, right? Just go something like, I don't know, like this. And that's really good. But I do think, like, I still do think that going, like, you know, either Brave or Adamant plus, like, Maxi is, like, insane. It just comes down to how you want to play it. Like, do you want to play, like, that more bulky setup variant? Or do you want to play just, like, I'm just going to hit you hard turn 1, right? Like, that's really what it comes down to with this mon. In terms of Cresselia, Cress is, like, really interesting. People use it as, like, your goggles check, right? Because Ursaluna, like, when it's burn, is a check to, like, a soft check to Amoonguss, right? Because, like, it can't sleep you if you burn. And so people are going things like safety goggles so that you've got 2 immunities. Rocky Helmet's also, like, really sick on this because you pair this with why am I blanking? Ally Switch. You pair this with Ally Switch, and they try to, you know, go after the Luna. You swap places with the Cress, and it's annoying, let's be honest. In terms of the Terra, Terra Fairy obviously is, like, really good defensive on this. Terra Dark is picking up a lot now. To me, Terra Dark's really interesting because obviously not only does it give you an immunity to the prankster taunts that are running around right now, but it also actually gives you a resistance to Dark and to Ghost, which are, like, your only 2 weaknesses. Obviously it does open you up to things like close combat from the Urshifus and, you know, like, you know, potential some bug moves. Really, it's just U-turn kind of running around. But it is still really, really good defensively, I think, on Cresselia. In terms of the rest of the moves, Lunar Blessing is like almost always a must. Trick Room, obviously, if you're playing with the Lunas, with the Ursaluna is great. And then like Moonblast or Psychic are really good. There have been some sets, especially back in Victory Road, where it was like Calm Mind plus Stored Power, which was interesting. They also ran, I believe, Moonlight. But personally, I do think something like this is probably like basically it's your best case scenario. It's your best build. In terms of EVs, it's really down to what you want. I think you probably want a lot of bulk, right? At least on the physical side. You could run a little bit of special attack. But again, that comes down to what you want to play. And then finally, it is the Iron Hands. Now, the reason Hands is like so good on this set, on this core, is it gives you Fake Out. It also gives you, again, like with Terra Grass, it gives you another immunity to Spores. But also gives you like Fake Out plus Trick Room. Like this just gives you a guaranteed Trick Room into like anything that isn't like Indeedee or Farigiraf, right? Like obviously they're two Trick Room and Prison Mons at stop priority. And yeah, Fake Out just gives you a free Trick Room. You can always like slap on like a Volt Switch as well, which allows you to get into the Ursaluna. And then you've always got options like obviously the Wild Charge and the Drain Punch. If you're crazy as well, there's things like Close Combat, Thunder Punch as well if you want to like set up SD. Because like this is another one as well where you don't even have to go the AV. You can go things like Goggles or Citrus Berry, even, you know, Lefties if you want, and then start like clicking Sword Stances with Drain Punch, Thunder Punch. It's wild. EVs on this thing, again, this comes down to what you want to do. Personally, recently, I've been running like, I think it was something like that, like Adamant, Max. I run this up to 75 because again, I really like that speed tier. And then you kind of just like dump the rest in HP. Actually, is that right? No, I run this down a little bit and get that to the, yeah, something like that. I think this is what I've been running. Something along these lines. But yeah, I think Iron Hands is just a fantastic mon right now. It does a lot. It's just really good. Like, it's a good balance mon. It's great into like, you know, the really aggressive leads like the Power Knights. Because obviously this mon is like so naturally fat that it's able to eat hits from like the really aggressive teams. The only like leads it really doesn't want to eat hits from are like Flutterfish, right? And even then Flutterfish is kind of, it's not getting played much. I do think it's on the rise, but nothing too crazy right now. But I guess other mons this core likes to be paired with. It loves like the Urshifu Power Knight, right? Because yeah, you kind of like lack speed control on this team, but like these three here are like, sorry, it doesn't lack speed control. It lacks a fast mode, but these three here give you like a great Trick Room mode. And then when you go like Urshifu with Aqua Jet, Chien-Pao with Sucker Punch, and then D-Knight with E-Speed, like it gives you this mode where it's like, okay, like you're really slow, but you've got like, you know, triple priority plus like this slow Trick Room mode. It also does love things like Urshifu Torn Flutter. Torn obviously gives you a Rain Dance option. It also gives you Tailwind if you do play these with a bit of speed into like, you know, like other balanced matchups. And then Flutter Mane's obviously just like really good. But yeah, this core's like super flexible. Honestly, it pairs with like every other like core in the meta. You could also pair this with like the classic Urshifu Heatran and Rilla combo. Just like really, really flexible core, man. It's honestly really good. Now, the next core I want to talk about here, it's not so much like a core as it is like just an incredibly good duo. I kind of touched on it earlier with like one of our other cores, but it's just the Funny Lando core, man. And like what this core does so good is just like Eerie Impulse and the Intimidate, right? Especially when you got things like Intimidate U-Turn. You can also like slap AV on this. I won't go over the spreads on this because I did kind of touch on them earlier, but you can run AV on this. You can run Helmet on this. Like actually, I didn't touch on that before. Like Helmet with Water is actually like really sick on this, especially like on a set like this. Because like you go Intimidate, you go Helmet. You've got like Eerie Impulse here, and like these two mons can just like really just make like this like really, really good defensive core. And then the mons you kind of want to pair with this, like again, we've kind of touched on a lot of them, like Shroom's really good. Heatran's like another really good option, especially like AV Heatran with like Helmet Lando. It gives you like just like this really, really bulky core that also like allows you to just like really pump out a lot of damage. Obviously cores like this as well, they love things like Flutter Mane, right? Because when you've got this like bulky core that is like, its job is to kind of like nerf the enemy, you need something like a Specs Flutter Mane, Booster Flutter Mane, whatever, to like really, really help you break through these teams. Gholdengo, I kind of touched on before, Gold and Urshifu also like really love these two, especially when you've got like Amoonguss, like Gold plus Dark Urshifu is like insanely good. But yeah, not too much to say about this core really, as it is like more like just a really good duo. But yeah, like the Thundy Lando core, like I also did touch on it, like EQ, man, you slap Earthquake on this as well, like if you want, especially if you're playing like Helmet or something, you can go like EQ plus Stomping Tantrum, and it's like really good. Something as well that isn't actually looked at much yet is Sandsteer Storm. Now, obviously you might think like Sandsteer Storm's a bit weird, but like the ability to like, you know, go for these burns, on top of the fact that like this mon, even with a negative nature, like you've still got 105 base special attack, like it's actually pretty decent. But yeah, this is, look, definitely one of my favorite cores to run right now. I think its defensive utility is absolutely insane, and it's really just like a core, like, I feel bad calling it a core because it's kind of a duo, but it's a duo that you can just slap on any team and it's like always freaking good. And now the final core I kind of want to touch on here is, I mean, look, you guys all know this core. I believe I kind of touched on it a little earlier with one of the other cores. It's the Urshifu Knight. Basically, this core just won another big tournament. It won the Nino Tour, which was like 700-ish players. God, why can't I spell, man? Yeah, this core, it's busted. For those who don't know, you just go like Band here. I think Inner Focus is the play. You go Terra Normal, and then you just go Extreme Speed. You go, I believe, Aqua Jet is like really crucial. I'll go over why in a second. Aerial Ace is also like really good on this spawn. And the last slot, like I personally like Stomping Tantrum because this allows you to pick up like the Heatrans on turn 1. Because a lot of Heatrans will like come in on you and they'll just like be like, oh yeah, you can't E-speed me. And you know, you don't want to lock yourself into Stomping Tantrum, but then you just Stomping Tantrum them and switch out, and then yeah, you get to basically play the game. And then look, in terms of EVs, you just want to go max attack. Basically, you just want to make sure that your E-speeds do as much damage as possible. In terms of the rest of your EVs, honestly, what you kind of want to really creep for is to make sure you outspeed the Heatrans. Personally, I think something like this here is like really solid. Probably just like split the defenses at this point as well. Just get yourself that extra point there. But like, not many Heatrans are going this quick. It also does kind of put you in the speed tier where a lot of the Rillabooms are going for as well, which is like really good if you kind of want to snipe them with Aerial Ace. But in that case as well, you could honestly look to even go like a little bit faster, something like this if you're really worried about the Rillabooms. But obviously this is like a lot of speed investment onto a mon that's mostly clicking E-speed. So like if you did want to run something even like this, I think it's fine. Honestly, you don't even have to run like any speed on this, but people do like to pair it with Taunt. So if you pair it with Taunt, something like 52 is like, you know, also really good. Urshi, now there's a couple ways to run this. Mystic Water is obviously really good. I'm a big believer in Choice Scarf right now. Choice Scarf, Terra Water, I think is absolutely insane. You got the Surging Strikes here. You got the Close Combat. A lot of people do kind of talk about like Jet versus like no Jet. Because like you kind of want like U-turn always as well, I think, on this. And the question comes down to, is it Jet or Rock Slide? Obviously, if you're going like Mystic Water, your build is always going to be like Aqua Jet and then Protect. Or Detect, sorry. Probably want Detect. And then in terms of EVs, look, I just believe in Adamant. I think Adamant 252 is the best. I have seen people like Wolf. I know Wolf ran, I think Wolf was going something like this off the top of my head. I think that was like Wolf set. That's more of like a Mystic Water set, obviously. Actually, no, I'm lying. I think Wolf did that on the Scarf set, right? It was just to make sure like you outsped, you know, some like mirror matchups and other Scarfers. I'm not too sure off the top of my head what other Scarfers that outspeeds. Because obviously you're never outspeeding like the 150, the base 100s. But yeah, there's always that. And yeah, as I said, if I'm personally running Adamant, I'm going something like this. Probably just drop that down 1 point. And then look, probably just like splitting the defenses. Don't forget, split your defenses, boys. You get 1 extra stat there. But yeah, and then finally, Chien-Pao. Again, I touched on it like earlier in one of the other sets, so I don't want to like go too in depth on this. But you're going always Sucker Punch, Ice Spinner, Icicle Crash, whatever you want. Icicle Crash is picking up right now. Ice Spinner is more consistent in my opinion. Then it comes down to your Terra. Sacred Sword's really good, and so is the Crunch. Protect, obviously, really nice too. In terms of EVs, though, it is just, I think Adamant's the best. I think Adamant, you can go Jolly if you're scared, but I think Adamant 1 point in defense is the best. Dark or Ghost Terra, obviously, is really damn good. And then, look, in terms of the mods you can put around this, it's everything. You know, you can put the Ursaluna core that we touched on before with it. It's really good with like the Rilla Heatran plus Flutter. That is what just won, was like the Rilla Tran Flutter, like a more balancey core where, you know, you don't really need a fast mode because you've got like 4 priority moves. Obviously Fake Out from the Rilla is not like crazy priority. But obviously it is priority nonetheless, and next to Chien-Pao it can do a lot of damage. Iron Hand's also really good there. Iron Hand's one of my favorite monsters to pair out with Chien-Pao. But yeah, dude, this core does a lot. Like, you can go Free Graph if you want to stop the opposing team's priority moves. But yeah, dude, this core, look, it's the best core we have right now, without a doubt. It is just, it's so damn good, man. It's so damn good. You can't really deny it, unfortunately. Look, I'll also throw you guys just some honorable mentions. I don't really want to go too much into these cores. But there is like always the Hisuian Gudra plus Grimmsnarl. You pair this with things like, you kind of want a healer, which is like obviously Amoonguss, and Intimidate mon is really good. Like Hisuian Arcanine's like really good on this core. Lando also works. There is also the Rain core running around right now. There is, I believe it's like Pelipper, Basque Legion, and Thundy P, I believe, off the top of my head, is like doing pretty decent right now. Hisui and Grudra also like fits really well on this team as well, because like you're in rain, you can run Sap Sipper on a set like this, and it gives you kind of like that grass immunity to help out your Basculin Legion. Other ones that work really well with this, obviously you can have Gholdengo in that slot. Fluttermane's obviously like really good. Like it's always good. Amoonguss obviously is as well. Like you can afford to run like Terra Steel on Amoonguss on a team like this, because you've got that like quote unquote resistance to fire. But yeah, this rain team is also like really good. Another one as well that is definitely picking up, not Fundy Scott, it's Torn. It is the Torn Sun. Obviously Torn Sun has like been around like since the beginning, but I am definitely seeing people really start playing around with like the Chi-Yus. Like a core like this is really good, and then they pair it up with like just like another really offensive core. Like I've seen Power Knights, Shifus, stuff like that. Like Dark Shifu as well on like a Sun team is also like pretty good. And then finally, I will just mention Dondozo. I kind of said it earlier, but I do think Dondozo is still really damn good. The main Dozo core that we have been seeing run around is this, and they also pair this with the Urshifu Dark. Again, there's a few other mons you can pair with this. Like I've seen Flutterfish run with this. Basically, Torn as well actually is another mon as well, because like I think Fluttermane is like kind of like also like really necessary on this core. But basically, people are just like pairing 4 mons that can like break a hole through the opponent with Dozo Tatsugiri. And Glamour is like so good, because if you can get the toxic spikes down, it just really allows you to start being like super annoying late game. But yeah, Dozagiri I think is still really good right now. But yeah, anyway guys, that's it for my my top cores, or at least the updated top cores. Obviously I've done I think 2 of these videos now over the past like 7 weeks or so. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there's any cores you think I missed out on. I do think they are probably some of the better cores we've got right now. But yeah, anyway guys, that's gonna be it for this one. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.